Your level of stupidity should be illegal. It should be against the law for you to express yourself. That's what he wrote, word for word. Somebody from my past, somebody I genuinely loathe. I can't stand this guy. He's a straight up turncoat. He's the most disingenuous motherfucker I've ever met. And he pops into my comments out of nowhere and drops that line. And for about 4 seconds, I wanted to reach the phone into the app and break something. Welcome back to the lab. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott. And today we're going to talk about one skill that nobody names. The one underneath almost every fight you've ever had, every relationship you've ever ended, every comment section you've ever spiraled in. And it starts with a guy who thinks my stupidity should be a crime. Here's exactly what happened. I want to take you inside of this with me because I know you've had your own version of this. If you're anywhere online, you've dealt with this. So on my TikTok, I'm not just a buttoned up coach. I borderline with my comedy stuff, and I do takes about the secret lives of Mormon wives, which if you've been here for a minute, you know that's basically the Trojan horse for me to talk about Utah, about the church, my experiences there, about performance, about image. And this guy, somebody I've got real history with, somebody I'd be totally fine with never seeing again in my life, he climbs into my comments and says that my level of stupidity should be illegal, that it should be against the law for me to express myself. Now, my first instinct, and I want to be really honest about this, it doesn't do me any good to sanitize it at all, it was rage, like jaw clenched rage. I want to tell this guy to go fuck himself level rage. I know what a literal piece of shit this guy is in his life, how he alienates people, how he's made being mean and disingenuous a part of his shtick and personality, and there's really nothing redeeming about him. I knew all that. And so my response back after taming my rage was just a simple, and yet here you are. Little jab to let him know, hey man, thanks for the push on my algorithm. That was nice of you. But here's the part that actually mattered. And this happened right after I hit send on that comment. There was a second where I just felt this whole thing land differently for me. And I realized something very, very real. I don't care if this guy likes me or not. I don't. I would never trade lives with him. There's nothing about him, his life, his skills, his personality that is redeeming to me, that is in any way superior to mine, or even on the same level as mine. I do not need this guy in my life, not even a little bit. And the fact that he felt the need to show up on my page and say those dumb things out of nowhere, unprompted, that's not about me. That's a full data dump, a full diagnosis about him. And I felt this release when I hit send, genuinely. I was holding a metaphorical breath and I just felt it leave my body. And it was something that just was like, there it is. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not telling you that I've been transcended to this place where I don't get bothered and I'm not hurt by people. It still stung, for sure, because it scratched something inside of me that's like, well, maybe this isn't the right take. Maybe there is something. Like, that's how emotionally intelligent people process that, is they immediately feel, well, is there anything right about what this comment or this insult is saying? I'm still not as evolved as I want to be, and neither are you. And if somebody tells you these things like they are, that they're unattached to it, they're either lying to you or they're lying to themselves. And I could feel that sting, but also I could see past it in the same breath. And I was proud of that moment because that's something new for me. Instead of washing it down or gaslighting myself or acting like I don't care when I actually did care, I can be honest that I cared for a little bit. It pissed me off. And then I let it go. Like, truly. Why I'm talking about it here, because it doesn't matter. And I was able to then pull and extract a lesson from it that I want to share with you. So the question that I sat with after that wasn't, why did that hurt? The question was, why did he feel the need to do that? What is actually happening inside of a person that makes them climb over their own life to go into a comment section to talk about mine. Now, here's what I landed on. And I want you to really sit with this. I don't want you to sit and nod along, go, yeah, that's right. I want you to really let this in, really sit with it. People don't usually attack what they don't understand. They attack what they're afraid is true about themselves. When somebody sees you doing the thing they're too scared to do, being vulnerable, speaking up, being visible, being a little bit too cringe, taking a swing at your life out loud, it doesn't inspire everybody. It actually inspires very few people. For some people, it even irritates them. But that's the piece, is that it irritates something. It pokes at a version of themselves that they've buried, the version that is so desirous to be seen and to be authentic and to open their mouth and to have no issue with saying the thing they want to say, but they never let themselves. I'm not saying this to let the guy off the hook, by the way. He's still a fuckface. Don't like him at all. And I don't want to grab a beer with him. But understanding why he did it changed the cost it had on me. Compassion isn't the same as approval. I can understand somebody's damage that they've done to me without inviting it back into my life. And there's a whole deeper conversation about forgiveness that we could go into on a later episode that's along that same thread. But here's where this stops being a story about some internet comment and starts being about something way bigger. Because this exact same mechanism, somebody reacting to you through the lens of their own processed stuff instead of what's actually true about you, is the root cause of almost every relationship problem I've ever seen. In coaching, in marriages, in business partnerships, in my own life, which brings me to the skill nobody talks about enough. It's this. Can you see yourself from outside of yourself? Can you exit your own egotistical perspective for long enough to stand in somebody else's vision and actually look back at you? That's it. That's the whole engine. Everything else, emotional regulation, communication, conflict, forgiveness, all of that is downstream from whether or not you can do that one thing of seeing yourself from outside of yourself. So I've been actually circling this idea for a while, and I never said it outright until now. If you go back to the 3rd episode of this podcast, right there at the beginning, I talked about Whitney Levitt, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives star. She was on Dancing with the Stars. She ended up having a historic run at Chicago as Roxy Hart. Since then, she's started her own production company. She's truly inspiring with what she's been able to do with the mantle and opportunities that have been given to her because of her position in reality TV. But I made this comment almost in passing about her castmates, about how the whole show treats accountability and the concept of I did that, as if it's the same thing as accountability, and it's not. And at the time I said it and I moved on. But it's been sitting with me since because I think it's one of the most important distinctions that most people never learn. Here's the framework. It's simple on purpose because simple is what actually gets used. Accountability has 3 parts. The first part, acknowledging what you did. Just the facts, not the spin, not the, well, but, or the, but I was in this place, or they did that. None of that. Just the facts of what happened. Number 2, acknowledging the impact it had on someone else's life. And this is the part that everybody skips. This requires you to actually leave your own head and go sit in theirs. Not to guess how they felt, but to actually go look at it from where they were standing. What did they see? How did it affect them? What did it cost them? What did it feel like on their side of it to be on the receiving end of your mistake? And the third part, number 3, of accountability is not doing it again. That's it. 3 parts. And here's the thing that drives me a little crazy about the culture we're living in right now. We've collapsed all of those 3 parts to just be in the first one. Somebody says, yeah, I did that. And the applause come that they're being accountable. Everybody claps like it's the whole thing. Oh my gosh, they're so brave. They're so honest with themselves. We're so lucky to have access to somebody so vulnerable. It's bullshit. Acknowledgement without impact and without change isn't accountability. It's just a confession. And confession feels good, and it's a release valve, but it doesn't repair anything. And it definitely doesn't prevent it from happening again. You know somebody in your life doing this right now. Hell, that person that you know might even be the one staring back at you in the mirror, saying, yeah, I know I do that. Like it's some personality quirk instead of a debt that you owe to somebody else. And the reason step 2 is the hardest of those 3 accountability pieces, the impact piece, is because it requires that exact skill that we're talking about. Seeing yourself from the outside. You have to be willing to sit in discomfort of what your actions did to another human being, not just what they say about you as a person. Let's take this same lens and point it somewhere people really don't want to look. And that's in relationships. I think compatibility, it's misdiagnosed constantly. Constantly. It doesn't matter if it's 3 weeks into talking to somebody or 15 years into a marriage. When it starts to fall apart, the story that people tell themselves is, we just weren't compatible anymore. Compatibility was the thing that was missing. We just see things differently. And sometimes, let's be honest, sure, that's true. But I think way more often, far more often than we care to admit, what actually happened is a skill deficit, not a compatibility issue. People don't know how to communicate under pressure. They don't know how to process conflict without turning it into war. They don't know how to forgive, actually forgive, not just stop bringing it up out loud while internally still keeping score. And underneath all of this, they don't know how to empathize. They don't know how to put themselves in the person's shoes and actually feel what it's like to be on the other side of them. That's not incompatibility. That's an underdeveloped skill set showing up and wearing a costume that looks like incompatibility. And I get why we weren't compatible is a story that people reach for. It's softer. It comes with easier excuses. It's an outward, accessible, easy thing to accept. It doesn't require you to look at yourself. It puts the failure out there in some cosmic mismatch instead of in a skill that you could have built. You just didn't. And I get why people ease into that and don't want to accept it. It's because as a society, as people, we've gotten soft. Victim culture is very alive in our world right now, where the idea of somebody taking actual accountability is rare. The form of accountability is the one we've discussed previously, where they just acknowledge they did something and then think because they confessed that it means all is forgiven and all is well. It's not. See, the same root skills are needed as before. Can you get outside of your own perspective long enough to actually stand and understand somebody else's? If you can't do that, no amount of compatibility is going to save a relationship because you'll keep hurting people that you're otherwise well matched with, people that you have common interests and common values. You just have a skill set deficit that makes it difficult to connect. Incompatibility is a lot less common than most people think. Now, I'm not going to sit here and teach you like I've got this thing fully figured out, because that would be its own kind of performance on my end. And if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know I'm not into that. I'm kind of allergic to the idea of that. There are relationships in my own life, including ones I've talked about openly on this show, where I know I have acknowledged things without ever really sitting in the impact. I've said, yeah, I did that. And I've moved on faster than I should have, because sitting in someone else's hurt that I caused is genuinely uncomfortable. It's one of the hardest things I'm asked to do as a human being. and I don't always do it well. I'm working on it. And today, as I'm recording this, I'm even working on it in real time. So this isn't me from the mountaintop. This is me in the same valley as you, just trying to name the terrain and figure the path out so that I can get to the peak and do it more clear and more capable than I've ever been. So here's what I want you to do with this. It's not a 5-step plan. There's no worksheet here. Just one thing. I want you to pick one relationship in your life right now, whether it's romantic, a business relationship, a friendship, it doesn't matter. And this week, I want you to practice actually standing in the other person's seat, not guessing what they feel, actually going there, seeing yourself the way they see you. That's the whole assignment. See yourself from outside of you. Now, I'd like to give you a little bit of how the donuts are made on this one, because the net effect of you doing this and developing this skill can happen in another realm if you're open to it. Now, the idea of putting yourself in position to understand yourself from outside of you has incredible effects when it comes to this accountability formula that I've shared. It's a skill. You have to learn how to do it, and it requires internal vision, and it requires you to be open to seeing things you might not have previously been willing to. It also requires you to visualize. Now, I have been preaching for a long time on this show how important it is for the ideal life that you wish, the life of your dreams, that you have to develop the skill of being willing to see yourself in that future moment where you are experiencing the blessing, the material item, the relationship, the experience, and that data of that inner world mechanism will help you to create in your physical reality that same experience. That muscle of gathering visual data, audio data, kinesthetic data, olfactory data, gustatory data about whatever it is you want to experience is something that requires you to focus. And when you don't have all the information, to seek it out and learn it. That acronym is called VACOG. Now, when you can learn how to put yourself in a position where you are creating a future memory of something to which you want to experience as a part of your most ideal and most fulfilling life, you are learning that muscle. You are doing the reps to gain strength in the internal skill of visualizing yourself from a different perspective. You're visualizing yourself in a future moment where you have the thing that you want. You are visualizing yourself in a place where you are in your internal world experiencing other senses besides just that of vision. When you think deeply about it, you can feel it. You can smell it. You can touch it. Right now, I want you to consider the reality of that. And if you doubt that, consider this. Right now, as you're listening to this, I want you to imagine in your mouth what watermelon tastes like. Now, if you've never tasted watermelon, you have no point of reference. But the likelihood of that being the case is very small. You can conjure the taste of watermelon strictly by using your consciousness and your memory and have that feeling inside of you in your inner world of what watermelon tastes. This is a prime example of how if you can do that with that experience, you can do that with any experience. You want the big fancy house? You want the 8-figure income? You want the loving relationship? Put yourself inside your mind in that place where you already have it. Now let's analyze that for a moment. That means you are having to see yourself from a different perspective than the one to which you inhabit now. So, going back into this conversation about accountability and about the homework to which I've offered as listening to this episode, of looking at one of those relationships and putting yourself in a position to see yourself from their perspective of you in a way to help understand them better. This is the same muscle which you are developing. So to draw a straight line between these two things, when you go about the process of creating, visualize, designing your best, most ideal, most fulfilling life. And then you visualize that life in your internal world between your ears. It is the same skills as being able to connect with somebody else by understanding their perspective of you from outside of yourself. How cool is that? I truly, truly hope that you take this seriously. Your relationships that have strain can benefit from you understanding more the things to which those around you are experiencing. Then, as you increase your ability to communicate, you can then share openly back to the people in those relationships your perspective as well of them. And you can find middle ground, you can find healing, and you can find connection. But those are skills that you have to develop. They don't have to do with accountability. They don't have to do with compatibility. They have to do with you developing a skill that allows you to have more bandwidth. Now, I know I've shared a lot of rich ideas here. And if this landed for you, you know what to do. Keep the conversation going. Share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Leave me a 5-star rating and review on my Apple Podcasts or Spotify channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share the messages and the reels that come as a part of this podcast. Help me to get the lab into more ears. Additionally, I continually offer this up. We have my weekly lab group experience coaching call, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, every Wednesday. If you'd like to associate with people that are in their own process and own way, seeking, designing, and experiencing the life of their dreams in small ways and large ways, and you'd like to be a part of a community that uplifts and provides support, you're invited to join us. Go to my website, bryceprescott.com, click on the lab group experience link, and follow the instructions there. Or if you see me on social media, just DM me. I allow you to try out one of our calls for free to make sure that it's the right fit. So to review, when people come at you on social media, use it as an invitation to see how you really feel about certain things, and use that information for making yourself better. Additionally, I invite you to consider what you look like outside of yourself, what people experience of you when you show up, so that you can then help yourself be more relatable, more understanding, and more easy to connect with when it comes to your personal relationship. My friends, I'm your host, Bryce Prescott. This is The Lab. Thank you for joining us today. And like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'll see you.